This episode of the Local Hustlers podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you're listening to this podcast right now, then I'm going to assume that you would also enjoy listening to audiobooks. Whether you're interested in business, history, comedy, science fiction, or romance, Audible has thousands of titles for you to choose from. We want you to try out Audible for free, so if you head to our link, you'll get a 30-day free trial and a free book. So go to audibletrial.com/localhustlerspodcast to redeem your trial today. Again, that's Audible, AUDIBLE, trial.com/localhustlerspodcast.
You're listening to the Local Hustlers Podcast, your go-to source for connecting with small businesses and entrepreneurs in the East Valley. Get ready to be inspired by local entrepreneurs as they share their stories, mindset, best tips, and advice. And now, your co-hosts, Dallin and Eric Huso.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Local Hustlers Podcast. This week, we're super excited to be here with Cole Pierce with Baker's Travertine Power Clean. How's it going, Cole?
It's another wonderful day in the valley.
Right?
Yes, it is.
Gotta
Glad to have you here.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on. It's the first podcast, so it's pretty cool.
Nice. Take a few minutes and give us a little bit of a background on your life.
Okay. I'll try to keep the brief version. Military veteran, one of the post 9/11 guys, 7 years in the Air Force. Worked out the NSA, my first duty station. Second duty station, I wound up in Tucson, down Davis-Monthan. So that's how I ended up in Arizona. And after that second deployment to Iraq, I got on with a contractor over there, got out of the military, went back to Baghdad to contract, and opened the door to the world of defense contracting, where I spent 40 years old now. I spent 12 years of my life in war zones, so Iraq and Afghanistan. And got to the point where I had enough and time to go into small business.
What was it like being there as a member of the military as opposed to being a civilian? Like, what were the major differences for you?
Man, there's a lot of differences. In the military, it's like you're trained. Everything is just, dress right, dress. Here's the rules. Here's what we're going to do. It's how it's going to be done. There's a little bit coming back as a civilian, especially just a turn and burn like I did, coming back so fast. It was a weird situation, but you kind of feel like a second-class citizen, which is weird because there is a little bit of jealousy amongst the green suiters, who, especially if you're a younger guy like I was at the time. I was 27. So I went back there making a significant amount of money, more than what I did while I was in the military. And there's career guys that are looking at a young kid saying, hey, why is he making that much money? But then again, I don't have a pension. I don't have the insurance. I'm risking my life, and I'm bringing a very specific piece to the puzzle with my experiences and my talents just to do that specific job. So yeah, it's kind of a weird deal. Like, especially the time that I was back there, my first contract in Baghdad, the Blackwater stuff, had happened. I was on a tactical team going on missions as a contractor. So we were armed. We were actually going out on raids. We're doing an exploitation mission, looking for like explosives and bomb makers and stuff like that. So it was a very interesting time, and that stuff really, in that scale, that capacity ended shortly after that. You didn't see much of that kind of stuff anymore.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service, first of all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Did you have family that was in the military before you, or what made you decide to take that path in life?
It was a weird thing. A lot of family in the military. Okay. Aunts, uncle, my dad, a couple uncles actually. Mainly Navy and Army. Nobody had been in the Marines, nobody had been in the Air Force. And 9/11 happened. And I was working at a Ford dealership at the time. And I was just kind of like, wow, this is kind of a big calling. Like, I remember having lunch with my dad that day after watching the towers come down, saying, are we going to war? And he was like, yeah, it's a possibility. This is a pretty big thing. And I just felt like I needed to do my part. Finished out my semester of college, was in delayed entry program, enlisted, and March 5th, I shipped out.
Wow. So maybe not planning on it before that, but after that event, really...
Yeah, it was weird as a kid. Like, I loved that stuff, G.I. Joe, and I was all about it. And then once I got a little bit older in high school, sports, and then the ideas of college and the normal traditional route, I guess. But, working in community college and I wasn't thrilled what I saw with college. So it was one of those things where it was like, you know what, military might be a better option right now. I really don't know what I want to do anyway. And really didn't know what I wanted to do because I signed an open contract. And in the Air Force, they have an open general contract you can sign. I went to basic training without a guaranteed job, which is a pretty risky thing because you don't know where you could land. It's a big Air Force. So luckily for me, I did very well in my ASVAB, and I was offered a signals intelligence job, and that's what I went into.
Well, and you briefly mentioned it, but if you want to talk a bit more about why you decided to go back again out to Afghanistan after as a contractor.
Yeah, so why? So I'd never been to Afghanistan in uniform. Went to Iraq twice, and then I had come off R&R, and I was in Australia for about 3 weeks. So I took my R&R out there, and I came back, and my captain asked what I wanted to do, and I had ambitions of getting out and joining the Army and go to Special Forces, but I knew there was a couple contracting teams doing similar work on the exploitation side that we were doing. So I started entertaining like, well, I've had 7 years in the military at this point. I've been downrange a few times. Maybe I'll take a look at doing this from a civilian side as a defense contractor, because I knew the pay was great. And again, like I said, you can really hone in and do like your specific talent, what you want to do, and all the extra stuff like pulling guard duty and all these other things. You're a contractor, you're not there for that stuff. So I was very intrigued by that. And my captain said, hey, their program manager's in my office. Do you want to talk to him? So I walked in, I talked to a gentleman who used to be with SEAL Team 6, and older retired gentleman, and talked to him for about 10 minutes. He goes, yeah, we'll hire you. We need an intel guy. And that was pretty much it. I finished out my time, came back, I ETS'd, and then did a little bit of training over in Virginia, and then went back over.
Wow.
Yeah. So then the Afghanistan, to answer your full question there, that contract was 4 or 5 months of Iraq. IEDs were starting to pop up in Afghanistan. I had the option in Iraq to go to Afghanistan. They said, hey, who wants to go? We need guys there. You'll be on a plane tonight. And I was like, well, is our contract getting renewed here? Because, I know this AO, this is kind of where I want to stay. My program manager thought it was. I took his word. I'm new to contracting. I don't know. And then within 2 weeks, I kind of lost my job because the whole program got shut down. So I ended up back in Tucson, stuff in storage, crashing couches, got some money in the bank account, and moved up here to Ahwatukee and kind of hung out for the summer and had a good time. Took a little breather. But then, it's like, wow, first time being unemployed since I was like 18 years old.
Yeah.
And, you're watching your bank account go down, go down. Like, well, I should probably get a job again. Kind of need one of those as an adult. And then started looking into the Afghan options. And, that's how that happened. January 2010, landed another contract, and boom, I was gone.
And so what led you, after coming back home, to wanting to start a business, wanting to become a business owner?
So a good friend of mine that I was in my unit in Hawaii, still a great friend today. I'm actually staying at his house right now, moving out tonight because I got the lease down here for a new place. I sold my house in Vegas.
Okay.
When he left the Air Force, he owned a couple coffee shops, and some good success with that. He was always wanting to work for himself. And, at this point I had done a lot of stuff as far as active duty military and then contracting. I saw a lot of the government. I did a lot of, the stuff behind the scenes with the government, like contracts and dealing with like GS-15s and SCSs that are back in the States that are funding programs, and all the red tape and bureaucracy. And it just got to a point where it wasn't as fun as it used to be. That was part of it. Obviously burnout from Iraq and Afghanistan.
For sure.
But in 2017, when I started this arm, getting all these tattoos, my tattoo artist in Las Vegas on the Strip, it turns out we were from the same area of Florida. We knew some mutual people. We opened a tattoo shop in Scottsdale in 2017. So that was my first business, but, it was more of like me planning from outside. Alec was here. Justin was here. We were doing a lot of that stuff, setting it up. I'm pumping a lot of money into it. And I was here when we found the spot. We signed the lease, but I was gone. And so coming back in 2020, tattoo shop's wildly successful, is doing great. But I'm not a tattoo artist. It's not like I can just go in there and work and make money.
Right.
So I was like, I need to find something now for myself that I can work in a 9 to 5. And during COVID, a lot of time laying around on the couch, a lot of ideas like, okay, what are we going to do? And I had another friend that he followed. I won't say he followed. He was looking at doing it before I was. He purchased a gutter business down in Jacksonville, Florida. And so we had already been talking about these ideas of like, hey, a service-based industry, blue collar, here's what people want. You give them a great service and everybody's happy, and it's very cut and dry, no more paperwork and huge companies and all the, corporate stuff. So that's kind of what led me into it.
So you purchased the business, correct?
Yes, me and my partner, the guy I was telling you about, Mike Volo, we worked in Afghanistan together. He was on a contract that I used to be on because my time in Afghanistan, I changed contracts a few times. My roles changed a few times while I was there. So we worked in the same unit over there. And then I was on a contract that I used to be on that he was on. I came back to it when we got back in the States and we were working, from home.
Yeah.
He was working in Hawaii though, and I was supposed to backfill him in Hawaii. And he was just telling me, he's like, hey, it's not that great out here. I don't think you want to come out here. And I was like, yeah, well, I was stationed out there for 3 years, and I know where you're at. So yeah, it might not be the best. And, he knows about the tattoo shop. He saw me, at a distance being in Afghanistan, after work, dealing with tattoo shop stuff online and calling guys late at night, making sure stuff is working right. Mm-hmm. But he saw it go from like, a lot of stress to something that was really good. So I was telling him like, what do you think about just buying a business? You want to partner up and buy something, and then we can make a clean break from DOD. Because, he had a background. He was a Marine Corps helicopter pilot, flew all over Iraq, medevac missions. And so he went from that into contracting as well. He had a little break in between where he did some stuff, Silicon Valley and the Bay Area. But he was trying to find a home too. We're both trying to find a place that we really fit in where we want to be, that we can control our own destiny. Because in the military, you can be like, that's broke, that should be fixed. But if you don't have the rank or the power to fix it, you can't do anything. Mm-hmm. Where at least with this, we're like, you buy a small company and you go, all right, well, this needs to be changed. You want to change it? Yeah. Okay, let's change it. Mm-hmm. And that's super rewarding. That's great.
Cole, you've touched on your desire to get into the service-based industry. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind going into a little more detail of why you chose to buy versus start your own service-based company, and then as you decided to buy, what were the steps to lock in on the business that you did buy?
Yeah, so I've gone through the startup thing with the tattoo shop, and it's one of those things where if you, like Justin, my partner in that, he's a great artist. Like, I know the guy would succeed. He's a hard worker. He's dedicated. And, he brought a lot of good artists with him from Las Vegas. But still, he didn't have clientele here. So that startup is rough, just getting the marketing right. Mm-hmm. You're throwing a lot of money at it and you're just going, man, this thing has to go. 6-7 months in, the marketing is still not right. It's not looking the best. But then we started to figure it out and really turn that corner. So having been through that before, looking at some of the deals that the SBA had, to come in and buy a business, and interest rates, you look how they are, and money down required. There's some really nice SBA options out there. So I told Mike, I was like, look, let's find something established that, is a good money maker. Maybe it's somebody that wants to retire and move on from that. They're ready for something new. We can come in and optimize it, take it to the next level. So that's kind of the thought behind it. So the basic steps of that was to get on BizBuySell, businessmart.com. Both of those start scanning businesses. And this is an area where I probably should have reached out to my friend, the one that bought a business in Jacksonville, that actually he bought it after we bought this one. But he was working with some guys that he graduated from Georgetown with that went down to Jacksonville, Florida, and did similar stuff, landscaping companies. Mm-hmm. And those guys, they already had everything to filter out businesses, whatever would, fit the parameters that they were looking for. Right. So our scouting could have been a little better. But we had a good tight list based on multipliers and earnings. After you start to sign non-disclosures and looking through these lists of businesses and like, okay, these 10 look really good. Here's my number one right now, and go from there. But then you start to really dig into some of these businesses and the NDA. You're supposed to get all the tax information, and then you start to get some of it, and you're like, hey, where's the tax information for this business? Like, this guy hasn't filed taxes in 4 years. And you're like, well, that's a problem. He goes, well, he'll have it next week. And then you get that, and you look at it, and you go, there's zero cost for labor. So how does that work? He's got 7 employees, but he didn't pay any labor? Like, it seems like the numbers might be off. Well, he's only got 5 employees. Well, but the ad says he's got 7. So that due diligence period is really something to get into. And we just kept going down the list until we found one we really liked. And we're like, okay, this, get the stuff over to the CPA, let him look at the numbers. He says it looks solid. Met with the business owner and his wife. And, this one had been operating for 33 years. So I was like, okay, they took this. They were the startup, the 1, 2, 3 man show that built it into what it is. 10 at the time we took it over, 10 employees. So.
Anything else? I love how you mentioned the due diligence period and how important that is. You mentioned looking at the taxes, making sure things line up, like the number of employees on the ad versus what they actually had. Anything else that's important to look at when you are, looking at quite a few different businesses and trying to decide which one to get?
Yeah, I would highly recommend a business lawyer.
Okay.
Look not only through the contract that's being signed, but have him with his opinions. That's really important. Because there's always things that can go wrong in these types of transactions, and unfortunately we had some things go wrong, which now we're going through the legalities of all that stuff, and it's not fun. It shouldn't have been that way. But again, when somebody's trying to present something and wrap it up into a nice pretty box to sell it to you, like especially in a deal like this where due diligence time frame, you have what the business broker gives you. You meet with them, you look at tax returns. There's still a lot going on, and we missed some stuff. We probably should have saw, but it is what it is. This first time that we were going through this.
Right.
And you just, you can see it in big business, right? Big mergers happen, and then there's lawsuits after because things were promised that weren't delivered on. So it happens all across the board. So this is, I would say, you just get a business lawyer involved to really go through contracts and look at what's being promised, and then make sure it's followed up after the sale, because that's what happened to us a lot. We had a lot of promises that weren't kept up.
And it sounds like if you had a business lawyer, maybe you could have avoided some of those issues.
I think we might have caught 1 or 2, maybe. Yeah. But this thing is such a unraveling ball of a yarn. That we've had this business for 8 months and we're still finding things, so it's just like it's pretty wild. I wish I could get into more, but ongoing, so I can't really do all that stuff. Sure. But yeah, it's and that's the hard thing too with small business. Companies less than $5 million that are run out of their home. Things are it's different. It's not like a big corporate $10 million real estate company where, business lawyer like, I see this all the time, or, oh yeah, I've been in these transactions before. I know what this should look like. This is a very niche business with a lot of specialty behind it. So again, Mike and I didn't really have that background in stone. We're coming into as businessmen. He has a finance degree, already had a tattoo shop experience.
Right.
We're coming in as businessmen to optimize it and say, hey, we have these professionals here that do a great job. Guys been with the company for 14, 17, 19 years. And, they know what's up. We talk to them and they'll teach us as we go, more of the actual hands-on part of the business. Mm-hmm. But we're here to clean up that back end, which is really where a lot of the mess occurs with small business and the mom and pop stuff is the back end. Because, the accounting gets sloppy and, some things get a little out of line, like, hey, that's kind of a gray area. You shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I would love to dive into that a little bit because you mentioned optimizing a few times. If there's a few particular things you saw with the business and what you've kind of done over this past year or so to kind of make little tweaks and changes here and there that have really helped the business.
Yeah, I mean, in business, you can't be afraid to reinvest. So if you look at a company that makes, the income's really nice on it, there's profits there, you have to reinvest that into your equipment. I mean, first off, and your people and equipment, right? This is the the bread and butter of it. Your guys can't do the job if they don't have the equipment that works. And if you're not taking care of your guys, well, good luck retaining quality guys. So we came in and the trucks were pretty bad. Everything's over 230,000 miles. And you start to look at, what does it cost me to have a crew that breaks down and can't get out the door for the day, and I lose that job that was on the calendar for the last 2 weeks or a month? So, bit the bullet, brand new trucks right off the get-go. So now, dependable rides. Foremen don't have to worry about starting the truck in the morning, like, is it going to turn over? We talk to clients who in the past have used the company and, the truck wouldn't start at the end of the day and they're stuck in the driveway and they're trying to get home. So, and it's a bad look. You're trying to go into, you're providing, like I said, a niche service where you're working on really expensive flooring, whether it's marble or travertine or limestone, these beautiful homes. And you have the guys that have the talent to do this amazing job, but they're rolling up in a truck with 230,000 miles and it's breaking down in the driveway afterwards. It's not a good look, So clean that stuff up, give the guys raises, so these guys needed raises. They just weren't making what they should have been. And then, benefits. We had a good benefits package at the time. Benefits weren't offered to everyone. We were able to offer them to everybody, health insurance. So we just wrapped that up recently, got all that stuff finalized. That was a big learning experience too. Luckily, a customer that we had happens to be an independent insurance guy. Started talking to him like, well, I'd love to get insurance going for the guys. And that conversation started and it worked out beautiful. So we were able to do that. Into more equipment, trailers. But I would say one of the largest things that we did was, my final contract, I was a field service representative, and I was taking software and training Afghans how to put reporting into a centralized database that could be seen by the United States and coalition forces and stuff like that. So I understand the importance of databases and, sharing information and being able to get statistics and get data on demand to get an idea of trends and analysis. And Mike was doing similar stuff. He was a operations research, so trends and analysis. So we were, one of the issues, again, from like a mom and pop basis is paper invoices. An estimator goes out, writes an estimate for you. I'm going to come here to your house, but we're booked up for the next month, so I'll see you in a month and 1 day. So now I have this invoice, or this estimate written up for your job. You're on the calendar, you put a deposit down. I need to put this somewhere. So I put it in a pile over here, and then the week of your job comes up. Now I'm digging through all this paperwork, trying to find yours, put it on the schedule. And then I got to hand that off to the foreman that's going to come to your house, and he has to read the handwriting, and maybe the estimate's like, what did he mean when he wrote that? So the foreman calls back to the owner and says, hey, what do you mean when you wrote this? I can't really make that out. And he goes, where are you at? Oh, this house over here. I'm at Dolan's house. Oh, who? When was that? Because you're doing so many estimates. That's it was so long ago. So we were able to go in and get there's a couple different programs on the market, and we got one called Jobber, and it's really good. I like it. You're able to draw your estimates up digitally. Now everybody has access to that estimate on their phones, on tablets. You can take these quotes, you can turn them into jobs. So that stuff's really come together nice. And, it was a little bumpy in the beginning because you're taking paper and you're trying to put paper in the system and you're making the whole changeover. But once it's been in place, it's been really good because now we can take photos. The estimator can take photos.
Yeah. And
the photos are attached to the customer. And you can write notes like, hey, bedroom over here has a 20-foot crack that needs to be epoxied. There's huge scratches in the kitchen. And then you can show the customer that too on their estimate. We've identified this stuff, which is also, it helps with liability because with scratches and stone, a lot of times they don't see scratches until you clean it. When the floors are clean, they're like, oh, where'd those scratches come from? Like, well, they were there, they were dirty though, you didn't see them. But they were there. Like, look at your estimate. We wrote some notes, and then when we were out there, we identified when we saw them early. Like, oh wow, I didn't even notice them before because it was so dirty. So,
jobber's great, but it does cost money, and a lot of these other things that you talked about that you fix and optimize, there was a cost to that.
Oh yeah, there definitely is.
And so I just want to hear if you've seen the benefits on the revenue side of things from all those costs you've put in yet, or if not, what you're kind of expecting in terms of that.
Yeah, it's one of those. I always have the motto: go ugly early. I don't like bleeding slowly. Like if we stepped in and like I said, the truck's pretty easily identifiable right off the bat. Like, the mileage is high. I had one that they looked at, it's like, it's going to need $3,000 worth of work. It's like the $8,000 truck. Like, what's the cost benefit of keeping it, So like, what can I get on a trade-in, start working that stuff out. So yeah, we went through a lot of money really fast. Yeah. And we also took the business from, again, being run out of a residence into an actual warehouse in Tempe. So that was big. Now the trucks and trailers are inside at night. All the equipment's inside. We got a full warehouse, all of our supplies and inventories. But yeah, the money just, it was a lot up front very quickly. But the great thing about that is, again, we've had 0 breakdowns with vehicles since we took over. We've had machines go down, but we have a 4th machine on the trailer that's ready to go. So it's easy for me or my supply chain manager to grab a truck. If machine's down, I'll take another one out. I'll take the trailer in immediately to the shop. We'll get it fixed. So yeah, just, maintenance and stuff and staying on top of everything and making sure that stuff is right. And then, like I said, the human part, taking care of your guys, getting the insurances. We got guys that, in the past that they couldn't get a day off work to get dental work done that they needed. Because we don't have time. We can't make that happen. Like, yeah, you can make that happen. That guy needs to get in. Take care of him. So, guys that were married and waiting to get on a honeymoon, and finally takes his honeymoon after we buy the company. Like, wait, weren't you married? He goes, yeah, we just never had time. Though we weren't allowed. Didn't have the time off. Company couldn't give us the time off. Like, that's crazy. Like, we can give you the time off. Take that vacation.
That's awesome.
So.
And I wanted to talk a bit about that, the aspect with the employees as well. With that transition, a lot of these guys have worked for their previous boss for 20, 30 years maybe. Was there like an initial hesitancy from them when you guys first took over, or how did you kind of build that relationship with them?
Absolutely. There was a lot of hesitancy. And, the one I want to review is when you start to hear the stories about the way things used to be. Yeah. Then you can see it. You're like, oh, yeah, because, as one of the foremen mentioned, he said he had 1 foot on a ledge, 1 foot on a banana peel, and he had been there for a long time. And we were just like, man, this guy was getting ready just to say, I'm out of here. But these guys, they were like, you know what, we'll sit tight. We know somebody's coming in here to buy it, and we'll see. We'll give them 6 months. We'll see how it goes. And the cool thing is, there was a lot of guys that have left this company over the years because they weren't happy with the way things were. We've brought back 4 of those guys now. Wow. That, they talk to a friend like, where you at? And I'm over working at Baker's. And like, really? You're there? Like, no, it's a lot better now. Change ownership. And then those guys came back. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. Do you find yourself spending more time cleaning your pool than you spend swimming in it? Then you need to get in touch with Flamingo Pools. Flamingo Pools is your go-to swimming pool maintenance and repair company in the East Valley. Whether it's weekly maintenance, repairs, green to cleans, or one-time cleanings, Flamingo Pools is there to take care of you. Here's a few things that makes Flamingo Pools stand out from the crowd. When you first sign up for service, they'll give you a free complimentary inspection of the pool to make sure everything is running smoothly. They'll also email you a service report with a picture attached after every visit so you know when your pool has been cleaned. They also offer a mineral treatment, which will keep your chemical levels down, allowing you to have a healthier bathing experience. At Flamingo Pools, they know that your pool was made to be enjoyed, so let them handle the rest. Check them out at azflamingopools.com or give them a call at 480-422-6013. Mention this podcast and get your first month of weekly maintenance free. That's azflamingopools.com and 480-422-6013. Sounds like you have a lot of management and leadership skills. Are those things that you learned in the military?
Yeah, I'm weird on the leadership stuff. I think I was one of those guys where I never wanted to be a leader, but I always found as the older I got, it just people would look at me and I would say, okay, we should probably do this, and that kind of stuff kind of develops. Military is huge on like leadership schools, and every time I go to one of those, I would just read the book and look at it and be like, this is so stupid. Just use common sense, Can you teach leadership? Yeah, you can. I think some people just have it. I never wanted it. I feel like I have it. So just kind of ran with that. The managing stuff, though, definitely can teach management. Management's constantly evolving. It never stops. You never stop learning management, from interpersonal skills of people to, statistically, supply stuff of managing that supply chain. Well, supply chains right now is as crazy as the world is, right? We're ahead of it. I've got chemicals now for the next year. Again, coming out of pocket early, but prices are rising.
Yeah.
So I got locked in on prices of stuff that we need, and I'm set for the next year now. I don't have to worry about that. That part's over. It's already planned for it.
Yeah.
The management stuff, that was definitely, I didn't have that. The military gave me a lot of that. I was always kind of OCD as far as planning goes as a kid and getting a little bit older. But yeah, the military, especially, a place like Iraq, when you're running a small team and you're, forced to pack up and go to a different part of the country and run operations, and you got to make sure that you've got all your stuff with you, and you got to manage these supplies and everything that you're using, and bullets and, whatever it may be, truck maintenance. And yeah, so yeah, the management side of the military was very beneficial. And the same for Mike. Mike was an officer. I was enlisted. So, he gets, all the big officer schools and stuff. But we've had this conversation many times that it's really cool how in the military always says, we're setting you up for when you get out and you become a civilian. Everybody's like, yeah, right, whatever. But you're like, no, there's really some big nuggets in there that they give you that are very helpful. And
were you able to take, you mentioned in the military how each person kind of had a niche responsibility, a niche talent and skill. And have you kind of taken that style of building your team with this new business where you're not only putting people where their strengths are and everyone has their lane, but also building people and helping people have opportunities to upskill? Yeah,
the building of talent is the big one that we're focusing on now. So it's around 8 months that we've had it, and if you look at the average age of the company, it's in the 30s. A lot of guys have been here for a long time that know what they're doing, but some of these guys that came back recently, a lot of younger guys that they like the work, and they're like, yeah, it's this service is cool because again, take a $2 million house, right? And that has a beautiful floor in it, but the floor has been neglected for the last 7 years. It might have, animal stains on it. It's just super dirty. And you come into a job, you see what it is, and at the end of the day, you can make this $2 million house shine like it should. And you're like, wow, look at that floor. It's like a mirror finish. See the light coming in, reflecting off of it. And the guys like that, you get job satisfaction. It's not like, processing a loan. You're working at a bank and you're like, I'll process my 7th loan today. Like, we're a mailman where it's this continual flow, but you don't see the person like open up their check they got in the mail and they're like, I've been waiting on this. This is the best thing in the world. So, that job satisfaction, the young guys love it, but we have to get their skills right. And that was one thing in the military. They constantly hammer you on training, and training never stops. And that's where, I think a lot of people, when they're like, what does the military do? You guys aren't at war, but obviously the last 20 years we have been at war, but now, that Afghanistan, Iraq are basically over. It's like, well, what does the military really do? Like, they train. They just constantly train. So we're working right now on building a training pad for these guys, for the younger guys in the shop. We're going to put down some stone for those guys to get more buffer time, because you can't take a guy who has 6 months of experience and he's doing a lot of cleanup work and he's running hoses and lines. You can't throw him on a buffer in somebody's expensive house because he's going to hit the wall or something. So you don't want to train on people's nice stuff. You need a training pad. We got to work through that. And We've been working on some of that now, but we're going to build out the rest of the training pad pretty soon.
Any other traits or lessons you learned or characteristics that you learned from the military that have kind of translated now to owning a business?
Cool under pressure. That's a big one. You can't freak out. Granted, there's times where you look at certain things, whether it's, cash flows or, the legal stuff that we have going on, and there's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty stressful 8 months. It's also been super rewarding. I think that some people would be more apt to freak out and just be like, this is too much. What did I get myself into? I'm over my head. You just got to stand back and go, look, is this problem, the problem that we have over here, is there a solution for it? And they go, yeah, there's a solution. We just got to figure it out. We got a lot of smart guys work for us, and they got a lot of experience. So, we ask them. Don't be afraid to lean on your employees and go, hey, what do you think we should do here? We're thinking this. Are we right thinking this, or do you think that's a little bit off? You got a lot of talent there. Just tap it.
It takes a lot of humility to reach out to your employees and ask them for their advice, but I'm sure they feel a level of connection to you when you guys can both reach out to each other basically and ask for each other's help and advice.
Yeah. And that's the difference between being a good boss and being just a boss. We've all had those guys where, again, like I said in the military, like, hey, I can optimize that. I can fix that. It won't cost you anything. And they're like, that's a dumb idea. Why would we do that? We've all worked for guys like that at some point. We're just like, man, I don't get it. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
Like, why don't we just get it? Why don't we try it?
Yeah.
Let's see if that works out better.
For sure. Let's talk a bit more about Bakers and all the services that you guys offer, what you guys do exactly.
Yeah. So interior, exterior work. And the exterior work is really just, with all the pools, all the new development being done out here, patios going in. A lot of pool companies putting travertine pavers, limestone, all this stone is going outdoors, and sometimes not the best guidance on what needs to be done with it. Like, oh, it looks so pretty. Thank you for installing it. And then 3 years later, somebody's like, I paid $70,000 for this pool and this patio. My patio looks really bad right now. We're like, well, was it sealed? No, they just installed it. I'm like, yeah, well, this is a porous stone. It's outside. Are you hitting it with the water hose to wash it off? Oh, you are? Well, that's all hard water. That's calcium. It's getting into the stone, turning into lime. UV doesn't help. So all these factors of the environment of having stone outside. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon. That's, water and stone just doesn't go great together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that stuff's really exploding, and we want to come out and clean that stuff up for people and seal it. But on the interior side, we're talking marble, granite countertops. We do those. We do showers, your floors. So yeah, we have some jobs. It's just an interior job, just a floor, a travertine floor that needs to be. And there's different finishes. Yeah. Maybe you want a satin finish. Maybe you want a light polish. Maybe you want a high polish. You want to walk on a mirror. You're like, hey, I got a big room with this window, and I want to see that mirror finish. So some of the options with the flooring, with our processes to get them where they need to be, to get those floors looking right. So yeah, those jobs all vary. I have a guy that says, yeah, I want you to do my interior floor, and I have brick pavers outside. Brick pavers. Oh, there's no maintenance on brick pavers. Of course there is. Like, that stuff has to be sealed up too, because over around 7 years, they get hit with enough hard water and stuff, they start to break up too. They start to look kind of bad.
And do you do maintenance programs like for pool decks that would have high use and such?
We tell people, and again, the UV situation out here, whatever sealer that you use, you'll see crazy stuff on TV with about sealers, Home Depot with these guarantees, and 3 years. 3 years what you're looking at. The UV and the conditions are going to break it down. It's going to need to be cleaned and resealed in 3 years. Your interior, again, depends on your maintenance. Are you that person that takes the Swifter and gets the dirt off of it, or making sure your animals aren't using it? High traffic areas. Are you a high polish and walking through a high traffic area in the kitchen? Now you have a path, about 13, 14 months in. So it depends on the finish, what you want. So we tell people, typically 24 months on the interior. Again, how you maintain it. Kind of the same with the exterior. Some people would clean and seal the exterior, and they just, 6 months later, like, it doesn't look good. And you're like, you can go out there and look at it. And you're like, yeah, it's dirty. Like, you still have to clean it off. Like, it's not just magic. Like, it's dusty out here. So.
And when you bought the company, did you tweak with different products? Did you keep the same products that they were using for their sealers? Did you explore? Talk about that a bit.
We have our own sealer, our own proprietary sealer, our own enhancer, which is really cool. And that was one of the things when we bought the company. Like, this is excellent. It's not every day to get a chemical formula that you own and something that's been used in the field as long as it has been. We're like, this is really good stuff. And there's always an option there to like, hey, maybe we just, spin that off and we sell that, which we're working on that right now too. We have a separate company that we've launched. But we don't own the chemical formulas. Well, one of them, well, two of them actually. We're supposed to, we don't own them.
So you mentioned around the 3-year mark, it's time to kind of to go over that again. So do you typically see your clients come back to you after a couple of years, and do you have recurring clients every so often?
Yeah, based on the little bit of data that we have, again, that was the hard thing taking over the business too with the data. Like, if everything's on paper, how are you supposed to take the last 10 years of paper and make a chart out of that, what it looks like? Where's my returning customers? Where's the CRM, the database for all that stuff? So based on what I can tell right now, I would say about 30% of our work is return customers, which is extremely high.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good.
Did that have anything to do with the name? So did you keep the same name that it was before? Was that an intentional move because of the customer base, or?
Yeah, that had a lot to do with it. The SEO stuff online was pretty weak. Gotcha. There was no Google advertising going on, but there was a lot of print ads with the name. And again, it's been around for 33 years. Yeah. So to me, I felt like the brand was strong enough that you didn't want to come in and change it overnight. And then somebody like, well, who is this? Well, I called Baker's last time. Who are you guys? Yeah. Because even though we still get some of that where, I want to talk to so-and-so, the old owner. And it's like, oh, well, he sold the business. Like, oh, they get a little cautious. Like, hey, same crew, same processes, same chemicals, we're doing everything the same way, and actually it's better. So just gotta kind of explain to them, they were retiring. It was time for them to move on, and we took it over and just trying to make it better.
You mentioned that a lot of people will get these nice finishes and they're not really educated on, how to care for it and how to handle it really. Is there anything that you guys are doing or any plans in the future to help, educate people so they know what they have in their yard or in their house and the best way to treat it properly? Yeah.
And that's the big thing we're working on right now. We have some, we have aftercare like pamphlets about like how to keep your stone nice. So we're working on that stuff, putting those together right now. But our guys do a really good job, our foreman and our estimator. Our estimator has the longest time in the company. He just came out of the field, which was a move that if you would ask maybe the previous owner or someone is, you can't do that. You can't lose him. He's crucial to the company. Like, no. Again, that's why you have to develop guys. You got a lot of other really good guys too. This guy might have the most knowledge and is the best, but how good is he going to be for us as an estimator going out and making sure these bids are perfect and the way he writes it up, preparing the guys who are going to be there in 2 or 3 weeks to actually put their hands on the floor. Now you don't have a disconnect of an estimator who's not doing the work. This guy just came out of the field. He gets it. So he's really good at the expectations for the customers as well. So if you have, flooring, like we, a lot of times, especially in this economy, people buying houses. Yeah. Like, I've never had Travertine before. I just bought this house 2 months ago, and does this floor look right to you? And I was like, no, this floor looks really dirty. Yeah, it hasn't been cared for. So, he does a great job of explaining what they have, what it can look like and how to maintain it. And then again, when the crew comes out there and actually does the work, they get, more reassurance that talking to another guy who's like the guy who actually did it today is saying, that's what Miles was saying, So it really helps. Yeah.
Talk to us about the future and what your goals are for yourself personally and then for Baker's as well.
Yeah, goals are a tough one. Especially I got stuck in Afghanistan so long and, making great money, had my house in Vegas, was living pretty damn nice. So especially when you do it, I was 27 when I went to Iraq, 28 or so, 28, 29 going into Afghanistan. And, you hit a lot of, what you put on goals as a kid or maybe a young adult, like, yeah, I want a nice house. I want to do this. I want money in the bank. Then you hit that stuff kind of early. And you're like, oh, and I have a college degree. So what do I do now? So reestablishing goals is important, because I've said this to a lot of people. I feel like in high school and growing up and even in college, people tell you got to work hard, set these goals and keep working towards them. Nobody ever tells you what to do after you reach your goals. There's no like, hey, I made it to that first level that so many people work a really long time to get to. What do I do now?
Now what?
Idle hands, because that's dangerous too.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's important. So I'm actually, this last few days was kind of, laid up in, after my stem cell treatment, my knees laid up in a suite in Vegas. I was sitting there looking at the business and thinking about the future. Like I said, the products company, that's what we're really working towards now is, how do we take these great products that we have that we use that are proprietary to us and maybe not sell them here to our competitors, or maybe do. Maybe take them to Texas, take them to Florida, take them to different places. And, there's a lot of tile stores out there, and there's a lot of huge companies, DuPont, these massive companies that sell sealer, and the margins, that stuff's really expensive. Go into Home Depot and take a look at sealer, and you'll see like a solvent-based sealer, it's like $53 a quart, and you're like, wow, that's could we bring something to the marketplace that's just as good at a better price? I think we can. So that's one of the goals going into the future with this is to work that side of it, develop our younger guys, grow the company. I'd love to see, a couple more trucks come in, a couple more crews, really lock down the marketing to capture that bigger audience, because like I mentioned before, it's a niche industry, a niche business. There's, we have some competitors here in town, but if you look at how many homes are here and how many square foot of stone, there's not enough stone cleaning companies to handle all of it. And a lot of people don't even know. They're walking out every day and they don't know that it should probably be cleaned, or this needs to be sealed in the backyard. So it's, getting that awareness out there. So I would say, yeah, marketing, training, growing, expanding. That's kind of the goal.
Awesome. I love what you shared about, personal goals and what's next after you kind of reach your first set of goals. But would love to hear if, any advice you'd have for someone who maybe did reach those goals, maybe had some success earlier than they thought they would, and they're kind of idle, like you said. Like, what's next? What do you kind of do to figure out what the next steps are?
Yeah, I would say sometimes the best solution or the best decision is doing nothing, because some people feel like they have to be doing something. And I can equate that to personally myself being gone in war zones where it's 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, sometimes more, sometimes 16 hours a day. It's really weird coming back to the States where, well, even a small business owner, 55 hours, I'm still reduced way down from where I was at. I have this downtime, and it's like, well, maybe I should go get involved in this, or maybe I should go do this. Like, you know what? Sometimes you just chill, give it some really good thought, sleep on it for a month, and then return to it. That would be my advice. Just take your time, figure out what you really want to do, because it's not always about just making money, right? Everybody wants to make money. You want to have a business that's successful. That's good, and you get there. But sometimes enough is enough. If your company might hit your goal where you want to be in life and you're comfortable. Well, then take care of your guys and make sure that company is tight, before you jump off and do something else. Just make sure this thing is really the best it can be. Because really, some people jump off to the next thing, and there's a lot of work to still be done too. So, yeah,
I love that advice. I think we could all listen to that a couple times over and learn a few things from it. Especially with owning your own business, it's just so easy to always be working, and you're not always doing something, super productive for the business. And so if you're just used to working, and filling up any free time with work, it's not always the most productive thing to do. So maybe taking some time to think on your next moves, or even just doing nothing or doing stuff for yourself. Doesn't always have to be, financially driven, can really benefit you in life, and also in turn benefit the business.
Yeah, well, go back to listening to your guys. Maybe you have these ideas and you got these idle hands and you're at home like, I'm going to jump into this. But you know what? I'll ask them tomorrow what they feel about this. And now I've asked them with some additional services that are, I will not technically in the stone cleaning part, but it's stuff that with a little bit of training and add-on stuff, we could also provide this. And with our guys, like I talked about the satisfaction of like seeing a floor come to life and this type of work.
Yeah.
It's got an artisan feel to it. And these guys are kind of like artists in their own way because they get these processes where not many people know how to do this type of work. So if you bring them something, you don't want to bring them something like, I don't know, just something that anybody could off the street within like a couple of days of training could do. You want to give them something like, like epoxy, like putting down epoxy on a floor, like a metallic epoxy. It has its own like swirls to it and designs and like, I could do this, make it look a little bit nicer. And, you want to give them some kind of artistic outlet. I think a lot of the guys like really appreciate that stuff. So
awesome. I love all the advice that you shared, Cole, with us. If you had maybe like one last piece of advice for our listeners today, what would it be?
There's two important things that I think, especially going into business for yourself, that you really have to understand. Two concepts, and that's why they're tattooed on my knuckles. So it's luck and risk. And the first one's luck. People think of luck as good fortune. Oh man, Cole's over there with his own businesses. He's so lucky. Like, and to see all the time overseas, all the other stuff that happened. Luck is a convergence of preparation and opportunity. So you're prepared, and you might knock on 99 doors and just no, and then boom, that right door opens and your whole life changes. And then the people go, oh, he's lucky. We're like, yeah, that was luck, but it was preparation, opportunity. So that's the first part of it. The other part would be risk. And I think that's the hard one for people to swallow, because it's hard to be in your 30s or in your 40s and taking a whole career and just going, and I'm done with that. I'm going to go do this thing over here I don't know. A lot of people can't. They have like families and they have kids and financial obligations. But even if you have that stuff with the right planning, I think you can do it. But you can't be afraid to take the risk. If you're someone that's, averagely successful in your life, you have a career and you take a risk and you fail, you can go back and do that again. It's there for you. As long as you didn't burn bridges and people know you're a good person, you can do your job, you can go back to that. And there's no shame. Then you tried. And you'll get the lessons out of that failure too. So I would just say, anybody thinking about going forward, just understand what luck really is and understand you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to sacrifice. You might have to sell your car, sell your house, relocate, do that kind of stuff. But if you really want to make a change, the sacrifice is worth it.
I'm really glad I asked that question because I loved your answer to that. I won't add anything to it because I think you said it perfectly, but just understanding what luck really is huge for yourself and for how you view other people as well. So thanks for sharing.
And your context of risk, very powerful.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, Cole, before we get closing up here, we have a quick game we're going to play with you.
Okay.
So how it works is we've got a list of 20 questions that we're going to ask you, and you've got a minute to answer as many of them as you can.
Fast.
So.
Okay.
And we'll see how you square up against other guests that we've had on the show.
All right.
So just get that pulled up. And you got it? Okay, we'll go ahead and start in 3, 2, 1.
Your dream vacation?
Argentina.
First thing you'd buy if you won $1 million?
McLaren.
Favorite hobby?
Off-roading.
If there was an Olympic competition for everyday activities, what activity would you have a good chance at winning a medal in?
For everyday activities?
Yeah.
Business.
A song you've been jamming to lately?
Security by Amel and the Sniffers.
If you lived to be 100, would you rather have the mind or the body of your prime self?
Body.
Favorite holiday?
4th of July.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Vanilla.
Favorite fictional character?
Tyler Durden.
Favorite smell?
Vanilla.
What's your nickname?
I don't have one.
Pet peeve?
Laziness.
Favorite restaurant?
Tacos Tijuana.
If you could switch places with someone for a day, who would it be?
Kanye.
And there's our timer. Yeah, I'd love to see the business Olympics. That would be
The business Olympics, right?
And Argentina.
Yeah.
What's your connection with Argentina?
I've been to 15 countries. I've never stepped foot on the African continent, and I've never been on the South American continent. The farthest south I've been from here is Costa Rica, and I think I had a friend that went to Patagonia, and so it was pretty awesome. So in Argentina is one of those places we're getting there in the cities. The European influence that came over to South America. So it's Latin, but it's a little bit different. It's got that European flair to the architecture. So I think I would like to get to that side of the world. Check it out.
It's beautiful. You'll love it.
Oh, you been?
Yeah.
Oh, where'd you go?
Buenos Aires and Cordoba.
Oh, nice. Any recommendations?
Go hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the beef, right?
Yeah, you'll love the steak, the milanesa, the
I'm a big steak guy,
lomitos,
so.
the pastries, the facturas there. It's and the people are amazing.
Yeah,
and the architecture is like, you feel like you're in Europe, but it's got the LATAM flair. So
that's definitely high on my list. I think that's my number one right now. And then maybe on the way back up, maybe Colombia on the way out. So that'd be cool.
Cool. Cole, take a second and let our audience know where they can find out more about you and talk to bakers if they want to get some Travertine work done.
TravertinePowerClean.com is our website. You can search for us on Google. On Google Ads, we're highly rated. You'll see 5 stars, we're 4.9. Baker's Travertine Power Clean. Phone number is 480-743-2059. And you'll probably see our trucks on the road. We've got some new graphics going on. One new trailer getting ready to put graphics on it, and they stand out pretty well.
Awesome. I know you have a little special offer for our listeners if you want to share that as well.
Yeah, if you mention this podcast, we'll give you 5% off your job for sure.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks again for coming on today. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
It's been really cool, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
For sure.
Thanks, Cole.
Cool. We'll catch y'all next week. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. Just a few things before we go. First off, if you or someone you know is an entrepreneur in the East Valley, we'd love to have you on the show. Please get in touch with us by emailing us at localhustlerspodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at localhustlerspodcast. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for the latest news and updates. Also, if you enjoyed the show, please take a few seconds to rate and review and hit that subscribe button. It lets us know how we're doing, it helps us grow so we can reach more locals, entrepreneurs, and help small businesses grow. Thanks, guys.